नमस्कार दोस्तों। हम कर रहे हैं रेफ्रिजरेशन एयर कंडीशनिंग। उसमें दोस्तों बड़ा ही महत्वपूर्ण लेक्चर है ये। छोटा सा ही होगा दोस्तों। कुछ एयर कंडीशनिंग के महत्वपूर्ण टर्म है, जैसे कि डीबीटी यानी ड्राई बल्ब टेम्परेचर, डब्ल्यूबीटी यानी वेट बल्ब टेम्परेचर, डीपीटी यानी ड्यू पॉइंट टेम्परेचर, एब्सोल्यूट ह्यूमिडिटी, रिलेटिव ह्यूमिडिटी, ह्यूमिडिटी रेशियो, saturated air. What do you mean by saturated air? What do you mean by unsaturated air? What do you mean by dry air? Degree of saturation and how much air is saturated at which degree? 100%, 50%. Enthalpy of the saturated air. दोस्तों, आपने थर्मामीटर देखा होगा। If the bulb of the thermometer is dry, then it measures dry bulb temperature. If the bulb of the thermometer is wet, by the help of wet wick, wet cloth, then the temperature measured by the thermometer is known as wet bulb temperature. This is the wick. Wick is a cotton cloth which is wet in a water so that it measures wet bulb temperature. The other one is dry bulb temperature, usual normal temperature, normal air temperature is DBT. And when the bulb of the thermometer is wet, then it measures wet bulb temperature. Guys, this is constant pressure line on TS diagram. If you see, suppose this is your air, and in air there is vapor also. That is why this is superheated vapor state. This is saturated vapor state, this dome, and this is saturated liquid state, and here it is liquid. Air somewhere here in superheated state, and this is dry bulb temperature. And when you cool the air at constant pressure, then you have DPT, dew point temperature, and in between these two there is wet bulb temperature based on saturation. This is wet bulb temperature in between these two. Dry bulb temperature is maximum, then wet bulb, and dew point temperature is minimum among these three. Dew point temperature, it is the temperature at which the liquid droplets, here when you cool those friends, when you cool, this is saturated vapor line. After that point, the vapor becomes condensed, and here liquid plus vapor state. So here dew becomes formed, and this temperature is known as dew point temperature. Just appear when the moist air is cooled at constant pressure. What happens when the air is saturated? This is saturated air. This is saturated vapor line, and this point is saturated. At this point, all these three temperature becomes equal. Dry bulb temperature, wet bulb temperature, and dew point temperature. All three temperature becomes equal to each other when saturated air, when air becomes saturated. What do you mean by saturation? Every temperature there is saturation pressure, and there is properties of corresponding properties such as saturated vapor Vg, saturated vapor specific volume, which is very important. We discuss later. Saturated liquid vapor specific volume. Friends, ideal gas equation PV is equal to RT, yeah, PV is equal to mRT. If m is divided by volume, then it becomes specific volume. Then ideal gas equation PV is equal to RT. P small v is specific volume. Ideal gas equation is valid in air conditioning. What is the condition of ideal gas equation validation? The temperature should be very high and the pressure should be very low. And both the condition achieved in air condition. Pressure is very low, partial pressure of vapor or partial pressure of air, dry air. Air also दोस्तों nitrogen and oxygen, all these are very high temperature state, super heated state. All these gases are available in one atmosphere around us. So temperature is very high and pressure is very low. Both these conditions are achieved, so ideal gas equation is valid in air conditioning. We discussed these two temperature. One is wet bulb temperature and other is dry bulb temperature. And the instrument in which these thermometer are arranged, and this wet arrangement also. And there is handle. You rotate the handle in order to air motion, called sling psychrometer. There is various kind of psychrometer, digital psychrometer as well. If you know these two temperature, dry bulb temperature and wet bulb temperature, the rest properties are directly find out from psychrometric chart. How this psychrometric chart look? This is dry bulb temperature, this is wet bulb temperature. This is kg of H2O per kg of dry air. This is called specific humidity. And these lines, straight lines, measure dew point temperature. And these slanting lines measures wet bulb temperature. This is specific humidity. And these curvy lines are relative humidity line. And relative humidity become 100% when air becomes saturated. This is saturated line. Okay, we discussed this psychrometric chart and this temperature and this humidity, specific humidity, moisture, enthalpy in next lecture. This is called psychrometric chart. धन्यवाद. Thank you.